Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha, where we bring you cutting edge conversation while exploring the quantum possibilities. And we are so going to do it again tonight with one of our favorite guests that Auggie's going to tell you about. But as always, I just want to thank you for being here with us. Thank you for the chat, the lively chat that happens. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for contacting us and letting us know that you like what we're doing, or your suggestions for shows. We really appreciate that. And if you're kind of new to us, you can get in touch with us at broadcastteamalpha@gmail.com. And you can also come and join us for the Mastermind Connection. We meet on Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. A bunch of really fun, out of the box thinkers get together, and we create images of the things that we want to evoke changes in, if you will. It's been weather patterns, peace during the elections when that was happening, healing for individuals, healing on big levels, all kinds of benevolent and beautiful intentions. And we create beautiful images and kind of a guided imagery. And together we put our thought feelings into it so that it manifests. We go into the quantum realm and then it manifests in our reality. So if you'd like to join us there, you can send an email to the Mastermind Connection, all one word, at gmail.com, Mastermind Connection at gmail.com. Aage, tell us about one of our favorite guests, please.
Oh yes, I would love to. I tell you, we have Marilyn Hughes returning to Broadcast Team Alpha, and I've since we got her on the schedule, I've been looking forward to this one because I remember how much fun we had on the last time she was here. And she's well known out there, but for those of you that just may have don't know her yet, I want to say just a few things. She's the founder of the Out of Body Travel Foundation, which have a mission of reducing spiritual and physical hunger worldwide. And Marilyn has written 104 books. I'm going to say that again. 104 books. Man, oh man. That's phenomenal. And she has written for 40 magazines and done some 18 CDs and on the out-of-body travel and comparative religious mysticism. Now, these books, along with a lot of the other music and artwork and CDs and stuff, you can find that on her website and many other places. And in fact, they can be downloaded free, many of them. Now, that is also unheard of. And a lot of people don't do that. And I also know that she has been involved in the out-of-body travel and mysticism since 1987, and is a frequent guest on the radio and TV programs to discuss what you will see out there, outside of the body, or maybe, I don't know if it's out there, but it's somewhere. So, and by the way, she was on Coast to Coast here about 2 nights ago. So she is really getting getting out there get some good information out there. And well, being 104 books, she must be one of the most busiest people I know in the world. Because, well, she's probably working 26 hours a day, not counting the overtime. So I'm sure that she's getting a little busy. And now she's taking the time to be with us for the next hour. I love it. Welcome to the show, Marilyn.
Thank you, Aage. Thank you, Nori. Happy to be back with you guys again.
Yay. So good to see you.
Great to see both of you as well.
You have covered just about everything that is outside of the box. And there's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start. What do you think, Nori? Where?
Well, I would like to start by giving everybody Marilyn's website so they can take a peek. Marilyn, what is your website, please?
It's at outofbodytravel.org. You can
Perfect.
download all of our books, and we also have about 6 films now there that you can also check out for free. That gives a lot of direction in the out-of-body travel field and how to achieve the experiences. So, we got a lot there for you.
Wow. What a gift. What a gift. I mean, not only do you put in the time to write all those books, and then you're so generous with them. Thank you for that. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah.
Very kind.
Yeah. So what's on your front burner these days? What's really cooking? Consciousness?
Well, it's always out of body travel for sure. But you know what? One of the things that's on the front burner right now is we are in the process now of releasing A Greater Reality, Volume 2 and 3. And these are actually projects that are being put out by a huge group of academic researchers. It started out as the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraordinary Phenomenon. They are morphing now into an organization called Consciousness and Contact Research Institute. Their first book was the groundbreaking study on UFO experiencers, and that was this one called Beyond UFOs. Let me get that in screen. And this is really a huge study of what people around the world have experienced in relation to extraterrestrial encounters. Now, volumes 2, 3, and 4 are going more and more into consciousness and what they call the contact modalities. And what the contact modalities encompass, and forgive me, I'm going to have to refer to my notes because the contact modalities include a lot of different things, and it includes near-death experiences, remote viewing, hallucinogenic psychedelic experiences, channeling, post-death communications, mystical meditation, lucid dreams, human-initiated contact experiences, and various other transcendent realities. It includes things like remote viewing. Oh, I think that was in there. And also, the extraterrestrial experiences that people are having. And so what's happened with this organization is they have academic researchers, people like Dr. Rudy Shield, Harvard emeritus professor of astrophysics, and all these amazing people. I have a list. You can go to the website and go to the page and you'll read all these amazing people who are involved in this. But, just a little bit to let you know a little bit about Dr. Edgar Mitchell. Dr. Edgar Mitchell was one of the Apollo astronauts. And he became very interested in consciousness research because when he went out to space, he experienced a samadhi experience. And so when he returned from space, he got involved in all of these studies in the United States and USSR, and this was in the early 1970s. And he founded the Institute of Noetic Studies, which many people are familiar with and have heard of. And, not too long ago, shortly before his death, a few years ago, he was involved in founding this organization, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial or Extraordinary Phenomenon. And he was very interested also in the continuing study of the extraterrestrial phenomenon because of things that he had witnessed while in space. Okay, so he saw things, okay, things that, they were not allowed to talk about, you know what I mean? And so these are all things that came from the mind and brilliance of Dr. Edgar Mitchell, and so go ahead, I'm sorry.
There's 2 questions in there that I'm itching on. What did he actually see in space? Did he talk about that with you?
Not very much, because I didn't get to speak with him very much. We had these group phone calls via Skype at the time. And I believe he was on one of those calls. But from what I understood, there was some things that many of the astronauts did see in terms of they were followed, and it wasn't just his mission, but others. They were all followed and kind of watched by some of the extraterrestrials. And some of the Apollo missions also did have some awareness and had seen what, we've heard about these bases on the moon. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So many of the Apollo missions, the astronauts did see the extraterrestrial craft outside their windows in space. Now, in terms of Dr. Edgar Mitchell in particular, in terms of his spiritual experience, he experienced that when he went outside of the atmosphere of the Earth, he went into a state of samadhi. And so, like what many of us will talk about of experiencing when we go into an altered mystical state, happened to him when he left Earth's atmosphere.
Wow.
And he recognized this as being the state that all the yogis and all the great masters and religious thinkers had spoken about. And this fascinated him. And it literally became the subject of much of his research for the rest of his life because of this. And I can't recall for sure, but my understanding was that the other astronauts might have experienced it as well when he did. But there was something that occurred in space which caused them to switch into this altered state of consciousness.
Wow.
And so I thought that was fascinating myself as to what would cause that.
Do you have any thoughts on what would cause that?
Well, my thoughts are coming from the out-of-body experiencer standpoint, so they're minimal because I'm not a scientist. I have to do my little disclaimer. Coming from the out-of-body experiences that I've had, I have definitely experienced that when you go out of your body and then you move up into the upper atmosphere, there are different areas in the galactic heavens where you do go through different frequency changes. So, you will travel through what I used to call star tunnels. There are black holes. There are different frequency shifts in the heavens. And I think it's possible that those frequency shifts are identifiable not only in the spiritual body, but perhaps also in the physical body. And, but this again is just a theory because I did not experience it. I wasn't there. And it's just a guess based on what I've seen, because when you travel out of body, you will see that these heavenly bodies all have different vibration. They all have a different frequency. And in fact, a big part of our out-of-body experience and the initiations that we will be taken through as we begin to progress in the spiritual journey will involve actually being taken to different heavenly bodies to take in the vibrations of like the star, or the vibrations of the rings of Saturn, the vibrations of the star tunnels, the vibrations of the black hole. And then we have to actually travel through it, because then we go into an alternative universe, which again is an entirely different frequency. And all of these things bring our spirit and soul into a completely different shift of perception. And so my guess would be, well, is it possible that some of those things are even perceptible even in the physical body? And I don't know, but that's what I wonder.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So
I can
very
see
fascinating man Dr. Edgar Mitchell was, and had very fascinating experiences. And then he, was very energized to, really do groundbreaking work throughout his life, and, literally until the end. And his work continues through the Institute of Noetic Studies and through this work that's continuing in other work that he started. And so like in this particular series of books that's coming out, it's a 4-volume set of books. Volume 2 is another set of what are called theoretical chapters. So, you know, this first volume that I already showed you was also a set of theoretical chapters, but it contains all of the research that they did, literally having the thousands of people all over the world responding to these surveys about their experiences with extraterrestrial encounters. Volume 2 is theoretical chapters into all of these contact modalities. The chapter that I have written is called Out-of-Body Travel, Astral Travel, and Remote Viewing: Definitions, Similarities, Differences, Spiritual Potential, and Related Hierarchies. And those hierarchies are the angelic hierarchies and the extraterrestrial hierarchies. And it's a very in-depth article chapter on all of these modalities, which are obviously where I've focused my, life's attention. And then in the 3rd and 4th volume, those will be experiencer chapter books, where people who have had experiences in these modalities will share their experiences. And I wrote a chapter for volume 3, which is called The Progression of Out-of-Body Experiences, which details how out-of-body experiences begins and how it evolves, how it becomes a spiritual evolution of the soul. And it goes into great detail as to how out-of-body travel is not just a paranormal event. It is the beginning of an evolutionary leap for an individual soul. And so it goes into quite a bit of detail, showing you what its actual potential contains, which is so much more than people realize. And that's what I really want people to grab a hold of and quantify. And you can read both of these chapters at my website. They're downloadable for free. So outofbodytravel.org, they're available now. And you can read those chapters that I've written and glean that information, and learn quite a bit about what are the real life-altering ramifications of out-of-body travel for us as individuals, but for also us as a human species.
Yes, good point. I mean, most people, I know when I was practiced at it, when I was like 16, I was so focused on what was happening and, am I doing it right? And of course, I felt like I didn't do it right one time and just closed the book on all of it. But I love what you said. It's not just the thing that's happening there. It's an evolutionary leap for the soul. That's huge. That's huge.
It is. It is. And, I'm always trying to point out to people too, that it actually has this accelerative potential. The thing about out-of-body travel that is so unique is that, as human beings, we can spend literally decades trying to just figure out, well, what am I supposed to do next, right? Don't we all do that?
Yes.
And I do it too, we're not immune just because we have them,
Now what?
But so we do that. But what happens with out-of-body travel is it creates this conduit wherein the heavens have a way to communicate to us very directly and energetically what exactly it is that we're missing. And so we are instructed in a way that is very direct and very clear. So something that we might not be able to comprehend for literally years or decades, we can get in one night because we are immersed in it energetically. And all of a sudden it's like, I understand. I
Wow.
understand what I'm doing incorrectly here. And now I can go from this and I can get a thrust out of this, a spiritual
Yeah.
thrust. And this is how we can truly accelerate our spiritual journey, because we are literally cutting off all this time where we're kind of just piddling away, trying to figure out,
Right.
well, what is it that we're doing? We
Right.
accelerate instead.
Love it. I love that. Wow. That
Yeah,
just
yeah.
opened up a whole new way of thinking for me. That's awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much.
You're welcome. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
and it gets people a little bit of a preview of what is outside of the locked up consciousness that we think we have here.
Right.
Now it's expanded, and it gets us a little preview of what's out there, because sooner or later the rumor on the street is that we're going to be out there anyway. But
That's right.
this gives us a little preview of what we will go through in order to get where we're going later, probably.
No, that is such an excellent point. And you know what happens as well is that we don't realize that by going through these initiations and ritual passages now, we actually, speed up the process and make it a little easier for ourselves when we do cross over, because we're actually going through some of that stuff now, rather than like just leaving it all for that moment of death.
Right.
We're already preparing, so we're preparing in life. But what we're not realizing is that right,
That too.
life
That
and
too.
death are a continuing circular motion. They all move together, and that when we separate them is when they're not moving well. When we bring them together and realize that the motion from both worlds is an absolute necessity in order for things to move according to their perfect motion. That's when knowledge and wisdom can occur and descend. It's, when we actually say, oh no, I'll deal with that when I die. That's when we're cutting off. We're cutting it off. And we don't realize that's actually limiting the ability of this life to serve its purpose.
Wow.
Because both of them have to be united. It has to work together. They cannot be separated. If they are, our purpose and our potential here becomes very flattened, very limited.
Yeah. Another thing that I noticed is that once you're able to get out of the body, and well, I guess by the time you're comfortable being out there, you will when you get back, you will lose all fear of death.
Absolutely, that does happen.
It's gone, because you know what is out there. You can communicate with other entities and hear their experiences and stuff, or feel them. Actually, it's more like a knowing. But death is a non-issue.
Yes.
Well, Greg in the chat room first, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Margaret, for the super chat. You're so sweet. Thank you so much. Greg said, I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of suffering prior to death. Now, I don't think suffering is mandatory in every death. I mean, I know Greg is a nurse, and we've seen a lot of people die as nurses. But I don't think that's necessary. Do you?
Well,
I think I
think what I would say, especially if Greg is a nurse, I'd say to Greg, I think it's very common for people. I've heard that from a lot of people. Many of us are more afraid of what we might go through in the dying process than actually what happens after. And I think it's okay for us to acknowledge that that could be difficult. We've all seen it. We've all watched people we love go through difficult things. And I think it's okay to acknowledge that does happen. And we don't know how we're going to go. Right. And I think that none of us, we'd all prefer the let's die in our chair, in the middle of the night, falling asleep. That'd be great, but I think that's like 2 or 3%
Yeah.
deaths occur that way. So,
Yeah,
you know, in
there's a song about
reality, you
that.
know, most of us probably will have a different kind of death. You know, some of us will have accidents and some of us will have illnesses. And so the best way that we can prepare and deal with that is to learn and be compassion to one another. And hopefully in doing this to one another, we create a circle of love, because we are a circle of life. And, you know,
Yeah.
it's not easy coming into the world. Giving birth
True.
is difficult. It's not
True.
easy going out of the world. A lot of the time it's difficult going out of the world. So we just acknowledge that that is a reality.
Possible.
You know,
It's possible. But, and we won't belabor this, but I can't help but wonder if the experience of the person that's dying is as difficult as we're judging it. You know, we're looking, I believe, from being with so many people that have died, I really believe during that time when people appear like the body is struggling, I think the veil is more lifted, and I think that they're more there than they are here. And I don't think
that
the
can
struggle
happen,
is
for
as,
sure. That
yeah, you
absolutely
think?
can happen. And, you know, I know that I was, long story, but I'll give you the short version. You know, I was considered terminally ill for quite a long time. It started in 2000, in the year 2000. I had cardiomyopathy, heart failure. I was supposed to, you know, heart transplant, all that stuff. Never ended up needing one. Had an amazing near-death experience. Ended up getting healed. Long
Wow,
story. But I can
good
tell you that I was
story.
very ill for a good 15 years. I was on a lot of medication, went through a lot of things. And what I discovered was it was difficult. There was suffering, but it was more difficult for people to watch it than it was for me to experience it.
Okay, good.
And,
That
you
makes
know, I experienced so many beautiful things as a result, because there is a, when you are very close to death, you're very
Yeah.
close to what I call the borderlands, you know, and so you're riding that veil. And I was always, it was like while I was bedridden, it was like, I can't tell you how often I would just be opening my eyes and I would be seeing the most beautiful things. You know, I remember opening my eyes in bed and looking towards my door and seeing this beautiful staircase, this
Wow.
galactic staircase that was going up into the galactic heavens. I painted it. It was so beautiful.
Wow.
And, you know, and my, you know, the people who went, you know, my family has shared with me the difficulties of having to watch.
Yes.
And I can say that I would not give up the things that I saw and experienced and the beautiful things I learned, the gifts that came from all of it. I would not give it up
Wow.
for anything. So there
Wow.
is a gift even in suffering that I
Yeah.
think is lost to us sometimes. You know, we forget
Yes.
that there is purpose to the human experience, both the
Yes.
positive and the negative that we perceive as negative. And I
Yes.
personally felt that there was so much to be learned and gained and so much wisdom to be had by riding the borderlands for 15 years.
Wow.
It was just a wonderful, beautiful adventure, and something that, you know, the people around could not see. But when I would open my eyes, and maybe what they were seeing was my pain-racked body being bedridden at the time, and what I was seeing was this beautiful staircase to heaven going, oh my gosh, how beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where is
yeah.
that painting, Marilyn? Where is that painting?
Oh my goodness. I wish I had it nearby. It's in my garage.
Oh, it's not on your website anywhere? Oh my
It
goodness.
is on my website.
Is
I have
it?
all my
Okay.
paintings on my website. You can
Oh,
go
good.
there and go to the music page, because I have a bunch of music that I heard in my out-of-body experiences that you can all listen to for free as well. And also my paintings. I painted a lot of
Amazing.
things I saw. I'm not a
Okay.
great painter, but I did the best I could. You
Oh,
know?
awesome.
That sounds
Awesome.
wonderful. I see now that we are at the bottom of the hour and we have a 1-minute video that we are going to show you, the listeners and the viewers, and maybe afterwards we can get Nori's comment also. So Mac, just go ahead and run the video.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. So just a little heads up about that. The name of this new show that we're going to be doing, it's going to run parallel, right, with our Tuesday night show, Broadcasting Alpha. It's all under the Broadcasting Alpha umbrella, but it's going to be called Quantum Health and Lifestyle with Nori. And you see a lot of people, working their body in the video clip, but it's not just about that, right? It is very much about living in this body because that's what we chose to dwell in, right, during this incarnation. But it's also going to be like just what Marilyn was talking about. Marilyn, I would love to have you on my show once we launch it, because it's very much about living, right? Living when we leave the body and what really happens. So be on the lookout for that, guys. We're going to be starting it toward the end of this month. And thank you, Marilyn. I can't wait to book you for that. That's going to be fun. So anyway,
awesome.
yeah, thanks for that, Aage. Thank you.
I got something that I've been itching to talk to you about again. And because somebody asked me to ask you, because they found out that you're going to be on the show.
Hearsay.
And
Hearsay.
they asked me, could you ask her about what have extraterrestrials for spiritual awareness, or is there religions involved, or what do they believe in? That's what he asked me.
That's a good question.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. Well, and I can answer that based on my experiences. And so I'm sure there's always a lot more than what I've seen and experienced, because I've definitely learned over the years that, the universe is so infinite and so amazingly huge that you can only speak to what you've seen, because there's always so much more. But I can speak to what I've seen. And what I've seen is that in relation to the extraterrestrials, you have as many species as there, just as there are like on Earth, you know what I mean? So we have so many different species on Earth. We have our humans and we have all these animal species. In the extraterrestrial environment, you have the same type of thing. You have extraterrestrials that are similar to us, where they are mortal beings who have the battles between goodness and evil going on inside themselves. You have extraterrestrials who are of a slightly higher spiritual vibration than us, but not that much higher. And then you have the ones that are significantly higher than us. And those ones, interestingly, are of such a high vibration that it's very hard to quantify for us as humans. But when you experience them, you're going to experience them vibrationally. What happens is they will come to see you and they will want you to experience their vibration. So first of all, you're going to just be kind of like awestruck by their presence. because they are coming in and they are already so far beyond what we are able to comprehend. And very often the next step is going to be that they're going to come over and they're going to communicate. They're going to come over and they're going to embrace you so that you can enter into their vibration. And when you do that, depending on the race, then you will like almost embody and see. So I'll just give you one particular race. There's this one race that comes from so far out. I have no idea where they are, that it's just so far beyond us. And they're such a high light emanation. And when this being embraced me, I was projected immediately to his world. And it was such a high emanation of love. And it was just so bright there. It was so bright. It was so wonderful. It was all peace. Everything was pure harmony, pure bliss. This is a world that is not dealing like with the mortal world issues that we have. This is a world that is in the higher, finer frequencies of light. And it was so beautiful. And I was just so happy to be there. And then when he allowed me to come back, I was just like, can I please just stay there? Can I? You know? And I just wasn't allowed, you know, I was like, no, you plebeian, you know, just enjoy your moment, you know what I mean? But, you know, he wasn't actually that way. I was making a joke. But he was very, very kind and very compassionate. But he was just so far beyond us. And then there are these others. There are all of these different types of vibrational fields. And there's the Pleiadians, who are very, very much where when they come in, and the Pleiadians have been very much around the earth because they are much more where they guardian over us.
Yes.
And when you see them, you usually see them in conjunction with these huge motherships. And when you see those huge motherships, it's like this loud rumbling that's coming in, and it's like so majestic. There's a vibration to it. It's like you're like taken aback by it. And it is just so they are just so gosh, you know, very protective, very much the overseer. They, you know, I started seeing them in the early 1990s, and they were concerned then about the warring nature of humanity. And this is one of the biggest concerns that, you know, the extraterrestrials who are charged with overlooking and overseeing us as a human species is the warring nature of humanity and of human beings. And that's something that really seems to be one of the big obstacles to the human species being able to ascend into a higher, you know, a higher sphere or field where we would actually be able to, you know, join into a galactic, you know, because there is a galactic council, and I've been to the galactic council. But for us to really be a part of that, we would have to get past this part of our very primitive nature, where we just are constantly at war, you know. Yes. And it really is a real problem because, as you can see, it's only gotten worse. You know, and so we have a real obstacle. And it's really, I honestly am amazed at the patience that the beings who oversee our planet have had. And I know they've had to pull back quite a bit just in the last 10, 15 years because of our actions. Our actions have been very much against life rather than for life. And so, our actions as a species do have consequences, and our protection has been downgraded, which is a bummer for all of us.
Yeah.
But it's just so majestic when you see the Pleiadians. The Arcturians are also one of the, I would say, like overseers, but in a different way. They are always like trying to bring in these new energetic uplifts into the human thought stream. And it's kind of hard to explain it. But every one of these species has a different spiritual influx. And going back to your question, I'm sorry, I kind of got off track there.
Good. It's good.
They're not necessarily religious, but they have an extremely strong and holy vibration. It's there. It's just different than what we relate to as religious. It is something that you immediately recognize as a soul as being very holy, and being, in the out-of-body experience. When you meet a being of greater magnitude than yourself, you know it. So whether it's you meet Jesus and you're thrust to your knees, because that does happen sometimes, or you meet a Pleiadian mothership, and you realize immediately, I am dealing here with holy ground. You do have this awareness that is immediately there in the out-of-body travel state when you are meeting with beings of greater magnitude than yourself. And you also have this awareness of the different gradations of magnitude, because there are those in the spiritual spheres. And you see this with the extraterrestrials. There are different levels of that spiritual attainment. So there are different species there are some, like this one I mentioned at the beginning, which is just, they would literally be the ascended masters, but so far beyond what we know as an ascended master, the ascended masters of the universe. The Pleiadians would be actually a much lower level than them.
Wow.
You see, but yet the Pleiadians are a much more significantly higher level than us.
Yes.
You see, so there are these different levels.
Yes.
I think also the guy that gave me the idea to ask you here, I think also he, in part of that concept that he was asking about, I think also he was thinking more like, also, do they have a God? And I asked him, what is God? And he couldn't give me an answer.
They do recognize the creator. They are very much in community, communion, conjunction. They move in unity with God creator. One of the things, and it's interesting, in one of my latest releases, The Lord of the Redemption, and I'm working on its follow-up, which is The Aliens of the Redemption right now. That'll be coming out soon. But in The Lord of the Redemption, I traveled into what I call the tachyon fields. And one of the things I realized in the tachyon fields is that it's not possible to ascend to that level unless you recognize and know who God is. Because you have to be able to recognize your progenitor before you can be of service in this grand universe. So the way things actually work is that beings of greater magnitude will operate more and more and more in unity and conjunction with God. And so that is how it will work. The higher a being is in the spectrum of the universal flow, the more they will operate of their very nature. It will come completely naturally with God. It is not something that they have to think about or anything like that. It is a part of their completely natural inflow. It is part of the evolution of the soul and of our species and all species. And so in order for them to actually attain to such levels, they cannot do it unless they are in not only in alignment with, but in complete and utter acknowledgement, honor, holy regard for who God is, because it just can't happen without that.
Yeah.
Because what happens and we learn this, a lot of our films, you can watch these and it'll help people to understand this more. What happens is in mortal realms, which is where we are, there's this scattering, there's this multiplicity. We all wanted to be separated from God. This is part of where we are evolutionarily. The more separated you are from God, the lower you are on the evolutionary scale of things. And so you absolutely, and I know a lot of atheists and people who are of different faith persuasions might have trouble with this, but the reality is, and I learned this in the tachyon fields, is unless you acknowledge God, you cannot go higher. You can't.
Yep.
It's simply a prerequisite. It's not optional in the heavens. You can't go there unless you accept.
Right.
It's not like this is part of the our own human arrogance.
Yes.
Kind of derides us into this condition that we are in, where we have to have this false separation. But if we want to actually achieve what most of us believe we want to achieve, then we have to embrace the truth, even if the truth isn't what we thought it was. And this is partly where we have to go. So even if we find that a lot of what we've believed may not be exactly correct, if we want to get to where we believe we want to go, we have to allow the universe to guide us there. And if that means we have to accept and embrace things that we didn't fully understand before, then we have to be willing to do that. And if we aren't, then we simply will cease progressing. And that is our choice. We do have free will. We can do that. But we are wasting time.
Wow. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's deep. So then, in our terms of expressions, if we was in the presence of some, let's say, call it archangel, that showed up as a light being, for people that wouldn't know much, they would consider that to be a god, possibly. But they also have higher levels of development for themselves. Who or what is the ultimate universal creator? Is that what we could call God, possibly?
I think God is the substance and essence of all life. We are all created from it. We all came from it, and all life and all things came from it. It's really that simple. The archangels would know this. They do know this, the archangels are probably the most obedient creatures, and that's what gives them their strength. I mean, one of the most beautiful things I've seen is the archangels in action, and their strength comes from that obedience, and their obedience is very concise. They obey God. There's no question. And I'll tell you about an experience I had. One night I was allowed to ride on the back of St. Michael the Archangel. And it was just
Uh-huh.
so amazing to watch, because he was flying across the earth, and his job that night was to remove any of the demonic spirits who were prowling about the world seeking the ruin of souls, who did not have dominion to be there, did not have proper permission to be there. And this will just give you an idea of, you know, we don't mess around. We don't sit and talk about it. We just do what needs to be done. And so we're flying, and I'm just amazed, because St. Michael is so amazing. And I'm literally like this big on the back of his shoulder, and his hair is like this beautiful violet in the galactic sky. And as we cruise through, these demons, you know, who are doing things, they're violating eternal law, and they want to sit there and argue with St. Michael. And all he does is he looks their way, and with a single thought, he confines them to the abyss. He doesn't argue. He doesn't talk about it. He obeys the eternal law that he is sworn to protect. It's not a matter of, let's discuss, let's talk about, well, why it's reasonable to, you know, well, why wouldn't it be okay? You know, why is God saying we should do this? Or, oh, I don't think God should be this, or whatever. The thing is, and I, you know, I know I'm kind of veering a little bit off here, but we're going into the whole idea of, you know, the reason why these beings of greater magnitude are of greater magnitude is because they're not watered down. They're not polluted. They are obedient to God. Simple as that. That's simple. And they understand that the person to whom they are obedient to, using the term person, you know, loosely here, is who he is because he is. And it's really that simple. And there's no questioning, there's no messing around with it.
Right.
And so when this understanding of how we progress, it's almost like all of this multiplicity that we take on, all of this drudge that we build up, and all this, you know, questioning, and, you know, we come up with all these reasons why or why not, or why it shouldn't be our way. And we think we're so brilliant, and we think, okay, well, I can make a good argument for why it should be this way or that way. When it comes down to it, in the way that the eternal law works and the way the eternal world works, it's not going to matter. What's going to matter is that if we wish to progress spiritually, we are going to wish to seek the truth, even if that truth contradicts what we previously thought was the truth. That is how we will progress, because progression comes from things falling away from us, dross falling away, misperceptions, darkness, bad intentions, things that we don't even know or see falling away. It doesn't come from us having brilliant arguments or adding to. It's falling away and realizing that the simplicity is what brings us forward and brings us upward towards God. Obedience. Yeah. So there, you know, is where we end up. That's why the archangels are the archangels, why the Pleiadians are the Pleiadians, why those amazing beings from wherever they are, which I want to go to really bad and live for a while, are what they are, you know?
Wow. Oh my goodness, Marilyn, that was just fabulous.
Yeah.
Just fabulous. Thank you for that. Wow.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
When you talked about them being very tall, or Michael being very tall, that is true. I had an experience when they are taller, and even Joe Dispenza talks about this when he does the meditation in the ballrooms, and they got like 200 people in there, and he said that in one of the incidences when, or the classes that he did, there were about 30, 40 people that saw these very tall light beings standing around the walls of the room. And
Yes.
these people could see them when they got into
Yes.
that deep meditation.
Yes.
You may have heard that. So they are
Yes.
a lot taller than we are in the
Oh yeah,
natural.
the archangels are huge. And then, you know, the different orders of angels, they all have different sizes. And it's just amazing. It's just amazing, the differences, you know, and we realize how little puny we are, you know.
Aw.
And yet, you know, to an important point, and yet God is aware of every single one of us and loves every single one of us with an infinite amount of love and care. You know, just telling you quickly about an experience I had years ago where I was taken to the throne room of God, and I was allowed to observe and be a part of the workings of God and the mind of God for the night. And it was amazing, and I will never be able to put in words what I experienced, but it was literally millions of people and millions of things being done in every single millisecond, and how I was experiencing this. And it was, he was tending to a person here, 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 and all these needs all at the same time. There was nobody forgotten. There was no one left untended. It was a beautiful thing. It was an amazing thing. It was an incomprehensible thing. And so, you know, there is this balance that we all want to remember here, that in realizing our smallness, we also want to remember that even so, there is this great mystery about this grand love that I've experienced, but so have thousands of people with near-death experiences and many, many others with out-of-body experiences. This mystery of the love of God, this unconditional love that comes down on every one of us for every human soul and every sparrow that falls. And it's real. And I'm telling you, it is real. It is not just for one or for a few. It is truly real for every single soul. And as incomprehensible as it is to us, it exists and it's real. And somehow in that throne room of God, I was able to see that even though we can't do it or comprehend it, God is capable of being aware of all of us and all of our needs all at the same time. And it was amazing. And so it's so important to remember that that love still remains.
Yes.
It's always there. It's just an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, so
It's huge.
it is,
Wow.
it's huge,
Yeah.
because it's an amazing thing that God reaches to each and every one of us in this way. And that all we have to do is say, yes, I'm open.
Exactly. What a gift. Whew, I don't even think there's a better vibration to end tonight on. I don't even want it to end.
I know.
Yeah.
Chances are there is something to what Albert Einstein said when he said, I have studied the universe more than most, and I have found that the whole universe is made from the vibration of love.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And you know, it's interesting. I have found so many quotes from Albert Einstein that have convinced me that he was a mystic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, he was. Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Oh.
So Aage, why don't you ask Marilyn, your famous question before we close.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Okay, Marilyn, if you could speak to the whole world and the world was listening, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, grab the golden key. Out of body travel is the golden key. And it's, we're all reaching for pretty much the same things. Everyone wants to know why they're here, what they came here to do. Out of body travel provides those answers. It's the golden key. Be open to it. You don't have to experience it. You can even just benefit from reading about other people's experiences. So be open to that golden key. Take the journey.
I love it.
Yeah. And out-of-body travel is not that hard to learn. So let them know again where they can go and learn.
Outofbodytravel.org, and make sure you go to our YouTube channel, watch our film, How to Have an Out-of-Body Experience. That'll get you going. And also, we've got lots of books to get you going as well.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's great seeing you guys again.
So good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It was awesome being here.
Really good. Thank you.
Thank you.